So by a show of hands, how many of us have ever underestimated the president? By a show of hands, how many? Okay. There are many reasons why you underestimated that president. It was probably because of the way they looked, the way they talked, the way they dressed, and the way they acted. By a show of hands again, how many of us have met people who we held in high esteem, but as we got to know them, we ended up getting disappointed? By a show of hands. Okay. By a show of hands again, how many of us have met people who we underestimated, but as we got to know them, we actually realized that they were amazing people? By a show of hands. Okay. Human personality is a complex phenomenon. It is complex because the true worth of a human being cannot be determined on a first impression basis. Several scholars, ladies and gentlemen, have made the assertion that human beings tend to judge people 10 seconds into getting to meet them. However, if we predispose ourselves to such a belief system, we would be robbing the human race from seeing the good in each other. Why is that so, you ask? The answer is simple. Every human being is different, and our responses to certain situations can never really be the same at the end of the day. Imagine if we tried to understand people instead of judging them. Imagine if we truly took an interest in people beyond what they appeared to be on a first impression basis. If all this happened, ladies and gentlemen, there would be a serious shift in human relations for the better. Now, fundamentally, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to talk about two things. I am going to talk about human personality, and I am going to talk about competence. Now, when it comes to personality, many of us know that it is either you are an introvert or an extrovert. Now, my underlying theory regarding personality is that the world should begin to move in a direction where introverts are not regarded as antisocial and extroverts as shallow and overly concerned with what people think about them. The world must move in a direction where all these people with different personalities are not treated in stereotypical ways. So, ladies and gentlemen, we must get to embrace the fact that it is very naive to judge a book by its cover. And speaking of judging books by their cover, let me validate this assertion by looking at history. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is one thing to be a student of history, but it is another thing to learn from history. My late grandfather, Mr. Austin Stanley Phiri, usually used to say that it is only those who learn from history that make a difference in this life. So there are many examples that I can give to validate the assertion that judging people beyond first impressions can have positive consequences on institutions as well as on mankind. India, for example, is an independent republic because of one man by the name of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Now, if you met Mahatma Gandhi and the demeanor that he exuded, you would probably underestimate him. You would probably ignore him. Susan Cain, in her book Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, wrote that Mahatma Gandhi learned to manage his shyness over time, but he never really overcame it. He couldn't speak extemporaneously, and he avoided making speeches whenever possible. In fact, the early years of Mahatma Gandhi were marked by obscurity and insignificance. Winston Churchill, the former British Prime Minister, once called Mahatma Gandhi a half-naked beggar who he was unimpressed by. However, the Indian people chose to look beyond his shyness, but instead chose to focus more on his abilities. The nation of India today and its 1.3 billion citizens are free because they chose to place their trust in a seemingly shy and strangely dressed-looking man. This man by the name of Mahatma Gandhi would go on to inspire people like Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, and many other great people around the world. Now, if Mahatma Gandhi was underestimated for being too quiet, Robert Moses, the man who founded New York, the man who made New York into one of the most beautiful cities in the world, was once underestimated because of his propensity to be too talkative. According to his biography, many people that met Robert Moses looked down on him to be a loudmouth and a failure. However, all it took for his moment of greatness to manifest was when a prominent lady who saw potential in his abilities gave him a phone call. That phone call changed the life of Robert Moses and the city of New York forever. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I were to ask the audience what the secret to success is, some people here would say that it is determination, others here would say that it is discipline, whilst others here would say that it is hard work. And I do agree that all these three things lead to the culmination of success. But I also believe that one of the most neglected secrets to success and happiness is being inquisitive about what makes people tick. Ladies and gentlemen, out there somewhere, someone is waiting for you and your ideas. But if you keep on underestimating them, if you keep on ignoring them, all your world-changing ideas would yield to nothing. So we need to change the world from what it is to what it needs to become. We need to create an egalitarian society in the realm of human relationships. And I fervently believe with all my heart that it is possible. Now, in my short walk on this earth, I have met extremely shy and introverted people that are very competent. And I have met extroverted people that are very incompetent. But it doesn't just end there. I have met extremely introverted and shy people that are very incompetent, and I have met extremely extroverted people that are very competent. Now, if I were to ask the audience again to name 5 of the richest people in the world in chronological order, some people here would get to answer the question, whilst others here would not. If I were to ask the audience again to name 5 people who have won the Nobel Peace Prize or the Pulitzer Prize, some people here would get to answer, whilst others here would not. The point I'm trying to make is that none of us really remembers the people who made headlines yesterday. But if I were to ask you to name a teacher or a mentor who believed in you and encouraged you, if I were to ask you to name friends who helped you through a difficult period in your life, if I were to ask you to name a person who taught you something worthwhile, it would be easy for you to get to name that person. That's because the people who make a difference in our lives aren't the ones with the most credentials, the most ideas, or the most education, or the most money, or the most awards. The people who make a difference in our lives are the ones who care. So if you want to be considered as being important to someone else's life, make them feel appreciated, make them feel special. And the only way that can be done is if you choose to judge people beyond first impressions. Now, the secret to judging people beyond first impressions is by ignoring what is in your head and embracing what is in your heart. Because your head will have many biases, but your heart is immune to biases. Your head will make judgments based on how a person appears, but your heart will find an excuse to get to know a person for who they truly are. So whenever you find yourself in a situation where your head and your heart are in conflict, always follow your heart. And I repeat, whenever you find yourself in a situation where your head and your heart are in conflict, always follow your heart. Now, there are many people who we have overlooked in our communities, maybe because they are poor, maybe because they've got a criminal record, or maybe because they don't dress in the best clothes or talk in the most eloquent way. Or maybe they're just not cool like that to be worth talking to anyway. But in them could lie a solution to a problem. Maybe all they need is just that extra push. Maybe they've been so accustomed to being judged harshly that all they need for their life to change is for someone, anyone, to just show them an act of kindness. Now, Mark Twain once told a story of a man who wanted to know who the greatest general to ever live was. And so this man embarked on a quest. This man went to Asia, this man went to Europe, this man went to North America, he went to South America, he went to Australia, he went to all the four corners of the earth, and he visited all the countries in the world. This man searched and he searched and he searched for the greatest general to ever live, but he still could not find that person. And so in despair, he decided to pray. And his prayer to God was that, God, please reveal to me the greatest general to ever live. And so God answered his prayer and invited him over to heaven. And whilst he was in heaven, God instructed St. Peter to show him around heaven. So as this man and St. Peter were taking a walk in heaven, St. Peter stopped and he pointed at a regular looking man and he said that, you see that man that is standing over there? That is the greatest general to ever live. And so the man looked at St. Peter and he laughed and he said that, St. Peter, you're wrong. There is no way that man can be the greatest general to ever live. I knew that man when he lived on the face of the earth. That man was a shoe cleaner. And so St. Peter looked at the man and said that, yes, I know for a fact that before this man died, he was a shoe cleaner. But had he been given the opportunity to become a general, he would have been the greatest general to ever live. So we should all get to look out for the janitor. We should all look out for the shoe cleaner. We should all look out for the downtrodden in society, because in them could be the great generals. You never really know where greatness can come from. You never really know who could be the next Hakainde Hichilema, the next Charity Lumba, the next Mizingamelu. There is just no telling. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am human. And on the basis of my humanity, I know what it feels like to be underestimated. I know what it feels like to be ignored. And I know for a fact, ladies and gentlemen, that there are some of you here who have felt the same way too. Now, in the final analysis, I would like to inspire a call for action. I would like each and every one of us to get to stand. Just for a short period of time, it will not even take us a minute. And as we get to stand, I would like the audience to get to repeat the following words after me. Let us begin. I vow today to do unto others as I would want them to do unto me. I vow today to treat all people with respect, whether they be the janitor or whether they be the president. I vow today not to judge people on the basis of how they appear, but on the basis of who they truly are. Thank you very much.